Hey, thanks for joining me here on the Ozzstar Cars channel. I'm Glenn, and today's fun project, we've got this 92 Corvette here behind me. It's got the LT1 engine in it. That's a 5.7 liter with the 350, basically cubic inch is what it is. Now the LT1s were put in the 92 to 96 Corvettes. They're all pretty much the same as far as the design. They made some minor differences with the ignition system, but that's not today's video. What I want to show you today are some tips and tricks as far as if you're having an oil leak on these cars. Now the intake manifolds generally tend to leak. Now the gaskets themselves could go bad, but there's what's called the China wall. And I'm going to show you that in the video here. That's at the front and the back, so they tend to leak on both ends. And I have a two-part series here on YouTube on that repair, which is very detailed. I'll leave a link to those videos in the description and in the comment section, so you can check that out if you need to. Today's video, I want to show you what to look for as far as where the leaks occur, and then give you some tips and tricks here in the video, so it'll be a short one. Let's go down to the car. Let's check it out. So let's take a look at the patient here. This is our LT1 engine. And I already removed the air box. There's an air filter that sits up here with an air tube that goes directly into the throttle body here. I've got that removed so I could film and show you where the common leak areas are. Now, when you come down here, let's just give you an overview. Here's our throttle body. This is our intake here, the actual plenum. Our fuel injectors are here. Here's our valve covers. Now, this car has about 46 or 48,000 miles, original miles on it. And right in here is where you're usually going to see the leak. I'm going to try to hold this steady, but there's a China wall that they call it, and I'll get you a better view when I take the intake off. But there's sealant right in here, and that sealant usually tends to, I guess, go bad. I don't know if it dry rots or just goes bad. And you can see how, hopefully you can see how oily it is. And the gaskets on the driver's side over there, and here's your passenger side over this way, tend to leak. And oil flows down. It goes behind your water pump, this thermostat, down behind the water pump, runs down around your OptiSpark, which is your basically your distributor, and then you'll see the oil. Let me see if I can get a shot. You can see how oily it is down here. That's on the chassis. Okay, so then it drips down on the ground, and that's where you usually see it. Now, what I do know with these cars is if they have the original valve cover gaskets, they usually don't leak bad. And you can check, you can just look down in here, and this one's dry. I checked the driver's side, it was dry. But the other area is behind the intake. Now, this one's gonna be a little tougher to film, but I'll try to get you a shot. It is leaking also. If you look, let me see, get the camera lined up. Way down here, when the intake's off, you'll see this better. But down in here is another China wall where I'm pointing with the screwdriver, and you'll see oil flowing down there. Now the oil pressure sensors, which are back here, okay, they can leak too. So that's also, if you have a pretty steady leak when the engine's running, you want to check those, okay? So as promised, let me show you the leak on the front here, front of the intake. This is the throttle body. I've got it pulled back. The 4 bolts came out. You can see where the China wall is here. Here's the old sealant, like right here. And this is all oil and dirt. You can see it's kind of wet down in here, and it wicks up also. So that's the area of the China wall that's leaking. The intake gaskets also will leak. They're this way and this way on the two sides of the valley. I'll show you that in just a minute. After I get the fuel injectors off and the intake off, I'll show you the leak in the back. I have all the intake manifold bolts out, as you can see here, so I'm getting ready to yank this out. Injectors are off, and here's what I want to show you. I've got the EGR valve back here is off, so you can get a really good view. And here's the oil leak back here. So there's a China wall along here. So you can see where that's been leaking. It's kind of wet, at least I can see it. Should be showing up on camera. Here's these oil pressure sensors back here. So there's this guy and this one, and they can also leak. Now usually when the engine's running, oil's going to be pumping through here. Not usually, it is, and that's when the leak is most noticeable. So these are dry. They don't need to be replaced, but they can go bad. Anyway, I'm going to yank this thing off now, and once I get to the China wall, give you that beautiful front row center view. Okay, there's the intake over on the bench. Let me bring you over here to the valley. So here we go. Anyhow, this is our front China wall. This silicone actually stayed in place on this one. There's our intake gasket, driver's side. Bank 1, bank 2's over here. And then back here is the China wall, which the silicone stuck to the intake and it just lifted here. And you can see the oil residue that's up there. And you can see how oily that pipe is back there and over there. So that's what I wanted to show you guys. I'm gonna put a towel down in here now, get all this old crap out and get some new stuff in. So I clean that all up back there on the China wall. I lay a towel across the valley, put some shop rags in each port. You don't want anything falling into the engine. That could become a nightmare. Got everything cleaned up here, nice and clean and dry. And then the new gaskets will pop right in. There's a little hole right here and there's one here, and the new gaskets come with a pin, 2 pins. You'll see that in the video. They just pop right on in. All right, and then the other tip is this tube here from the exhaust. This is for the air pump right here. The air pump pumps air through here. This gets frozen at this nut down here, and the easiest way is just to take the 2 bolts out of the back of the intake, and then I just push this back about maybe a 1/2 inch, and it's out of the way. So anytime you pull the fuel injectors, you should replace the O-rings that go into the intake. And a quick way to do this, because these are pretty strong, they're pretty thick. I'm going to try to get this on camera for you. You can take, obviously I have a pick right here. You can see that, okay? See this right here? It's real sharp, and I've got a small pair of cutters. Well, you could take your pick. I'll try to get my hands out of the way in just a second. Put that in there, and then pry it out, okay, like that. I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm pulling out on that. Now you can try to pop it off, and it will go, but it's a lot of work. If you could just get it out a little bit, get your cutters on there, and just cut this. Let me see if I gotta come on this side where you guys are. You can't see me, but to get it, just get your cutters on there, stretch it out, snip that back, and then this is really easy to remove. Just pull it right off. And there it is right here. Putting these on is a lot easier. I just take a little of this dielectric grease, which is the same as silicone grease, just a little bit. Coat the O-ring, just enough to get it slippery. And all you gotta do is take your thumbs, push back like this, boom, and they pop right in. So I think they go on easier then they come off. Okay, so I'll put new O-rings on the rest of those injectors, make sure there's no debris inside here, that everything's clean. And if you're going to keep these off the car for a while, I suggest you put some like saran wrap or something like that with a rubber band around it, just to keep anything out of the end here. You don't want any contamination. And that's that. This will be ready to go back in the car. Time for an update. So as you can see, the manifold's back in, and I just want to show you that little bit of squeeze out right there along that back of that China wall. You can see it, that bead of sealant. And then up front here, same thing. Got a nice little bit of squeeze out. You don't want to put too much, you don't want to put too little, but you definitely don't want that squeezing out where it's inside the engine. Now, I use this stuff called the Right Stuff. Let me show you the can here. I'll link it down below. This stuff sets up, it says 1 minute return to service, but I'll actually let it sit overnight before I start anything up. All right, it's the next morning and we're about to fire up the car. Everything's been put back together. It's a little bit cold out right now, as you can see here. It's 19 degrees. So what I'll do is, and there's snow out there, I'm just gonna start it, let it warm up. We won't be able to test drive, unfortunately, today, but we will before the car is sent back to the owner. Anyway, everything's all set. I'm going to, like I said, start it up. The first thing I wanna do, or you should do, is check to make sure none of these injectors down here at the base are leaking. We do have the new O-rings. We'll check out all 8 of those, and then of course check the back and the front. Make sure we don't have any oil leaks. Let it run for a little bit, let it heat up. Another point or tip or trick I want to tell you about which in the video that where I do this actual repair, the part 1 and 2, I removed the drain the cooling system and removed the throttle body and took it to the bench. In this case, I separated the throttle body, as you may have seen, pushed it off to the side. The reason being, there's coolant passages, coolant hose runs through here, and this thing can work off of, or does work off of temperature, coolant temperature. So anyhow, that's why you have to drain the coolant if you want to take this thing off the car. I just flopped it back, took a couple of bungees, strapped it back down that way so it was pulled back, and that solves that problem. I did clean this throttle body. It was a filthy pig. Maybe I'll leave a picture of it here in the video, but yeah, it was pretty bad for just 46 or 48,000 miles. Yep, no test driving today. All right, let me get in the car and fire it up. Just run it for a few seconds. Check over those injectors like I said. Good. So far, looks good. Alright, so I hope these tips and tricks helped you out. If this guy Chaos is causing oil leaks in your LT1, some of you guys might know who this is. He appears every now and then on my channel. So thanks for watching. If you have questions or comments, just leave them down below. Subscribe if you haven't. Instagram is Ozzstar with the #1, and it's a little bit chilly out here. Look at that. Promise you I'm not hitting the crack pipe. So I'm gonna go get some hot coffee, or maybe something even a little more super unleaded. So thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.